We are tracking new breaking news about Donald Trump's unprecedented legal problems. Today, August 10th, 2022, a former United States president pleaded the Fifth, raising the topic of his own criminal culpability in a legal proceeding. Donald Trump spending 6 hours dodging questions at a deposition. You could see him leaving there in New York today. He stated that he pled the Fifth under the advice of counsel declining to answer the questions. This striking legal development, which we will get into, comes just 2 days after August 8th, 2022, when the FBI searched a former president's home. Both developments show the depths of Donald Trump's legal problems. Neither means that he is, in a legal sense, guilty of anything, to be precise. Both mean that the concerns about Donald Trump's guilt, about lawbreaking, about criminal evidence, and criminal activity stretch from the highest levels of the DOJ to a separate New York probe to inside Donald Trump's mind. Only he can make the decision that he made today. And let me tell it to you in plain English. It's a right he can exercise, but he made the decision, Donald Trump did, that he faces a higher risk by testifying truthfully in the New York probe, which he chose not to do, than by pleading the Fifth, which he chose to do. It is a legal but a controversial move, which he has publicly derided for years. Donald Trump pleading the Fifth in this state probe, which is completely separate from that federal probe, which led the FBI agents to search his home, an unprecedented event that has continued to send shockwaves across the nation this week. And yet it was Donald Trump himself trying to link these two separate legal events in that angry statement that he issued today as he tried to explain why he's suddenly pleading the Fifth. Meanwhile, his lawyer recounting the details of Monday's search.
Well, I mean, it looks like a scene from a movie. You know, the FBI rolls up, they've got their black SUVs, and they unload and kind of disperse. I arrived about 10:30. The FBI was already there, had already started their search. They stayed until probably about 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. They had a team of a couple dozen agents that dispersed on the property and did what the FBI does. They were looking for both classified information that they think should not have been removed from the White House, as well as presidential records.
It may have looked like a movie, but this ain't a movie, dog. This is real life. Other reports counted 30 to 40 FBI agents dressed largely in plain clothes with over 10 FBI vehicles going in and out of the property. This is a lot of pressure hitting Donald Trump all at once this week. Now, why now? I can actually tell you. The short answer is Donald Trump has been trying to fight, defy, and run out the clock on this slew of legal problems, ranging from evidence disputes to testimony to civil investigations to the possible criminal probes that could lead to people's indictments. Now, he has impacted the timeline with that defiant approach. But as he has learned, I should say, as he has learned not once, but twice this week, he does not control that timeline. So we don't know the entire path to Monday's unprecedented search, but we do know it came after months of wrangling that ended with the DOJ and a federal judge convinced that Trump was both likely holding illegal material and likely not honest or trustworthy about returning it. That is why that operation can really be accurately described as a court-authorized search, which it was, or a court-authorized raid, which in a very real sense it was. Bottom line, Trump was resisting to the point that in our system of government, which has independent oversight, a court authorized men with guns to go get alleged criminal evidence out of Donald Trump's house that he wouldn't provide after many, many past legal commands. So yes, in a very real sense, if the people with guns overseen by the judges have to come in, well, you're past just a request or what we might call colloquially just a search. There's a similar pattern in today's New York case. It would honestly, I'm just going to tell you, because I try to keep it real, it would take more time than it's worth to recount it all for you right now. But in the Times today, they actually have a partial summary of how Trump only got to sit down today, to this point, after months of legal wrangling. Back to January, he was fighting the subpoena. He lost. The judge ordered the Trumps to testify, a ruling that another court, an appellate court, upheld. Then the judge held Trump in contempt of court. finding he had failed to comply with the terms of the James subpoena. The Times summing it up, quote, "It was an embarrassing 2-week episode that compelled Trump to pay a $110,000 penalty until he finally came in for today's deposition." That was just to get Trump to show up today. And that pressure is what then resulted in Donald Trump taking the rare step of raising the prospect that telling the truth about his actions under oath could get him in criminal trouble or indicted. It is a right every person is afforded in America, but one that no former president has ever taken. Let's get into it. We have some special guests. Asha Rangappa is a lawyer, a former FBI special agent in the Counterintel Division, and also a Yale lecturer. And Michael Steele is just someone we like. No, I'm kidding. He has credentials, too. He ran the RNC. He's an MSNBC political analyst, a former lieutenant governor, and a good sport. Welcome to both of you. Asha, how about this bad legal week for Donald Trump? And as mentioned, how he doesn't control the timeline, but his approach, his delays, his defiance did delay, push, and sort of draw out certain things that do seem to be coming to a head.
Yes, and I think you did a really good job of laying out how he employs that strategy in a number of contexts. Look, I mean, today was D-Day for his deposition. I think that given his choices, he actually made the correct choice. Listen, he has 3 choices in front of him, right? He can tell the truth, which could incriminate himself. And in this situation, there's a parallel criminal case in the New York DA's office that has been stalled, and any kind of incriminating evidence he provides could jumpstart that. So that's not a great option. He could lie, which could then start a whole new investigation into a whole new crime of perjury, or he can take the 5th. And in a civil case, this means that if this ends up in a lawsuit that goes before a jury, his Fifth Amendment assertions, the jury can draw adverse inferences from it. The burden of proof is lower in a civil case. It's a preponderance of the evidence. But ultimately,
I'm only going to slow you down and then hand you the mic back, because we just got a lot of law. You're saying that while he has the right to plead the 5th in a criminal probe, it is still okay in a civil case to treat it as a bad thing, as a kind of a guilty thing, if someone pleads the 5th because it's not being used to incarcerate them.
That's right. In a criminal case, a jury cannot draw inferences of guilt from someone asserting their Fifth Amendment right. But in a civil case, a jury can draw an adverse inference, and there's a lower standard of proof. It's a preponderance of the evidence. And in a civil case, though, what Trump is facing are potential financial penalties. We've seen this already when New York dissolved his charitable foundation, which he was misusing funds, and sent his kids to remedial training on how to be fiduciaries. But he doesn't like losing money, but I suspect that he's more willing to lose money than go to jail. And I think that that's why he made the choice that he did today.
Yeah, and Michael, more broadly, this is someone who is known as a talker, who's loud, voluble, always wants to tell his own story, does that in his various forms, people know. In 2 very real ways this week, he has gone quiet. He doesn't want to talk under oath, which is a tell. As I say, it is his right, but it is a tell.